Legion. You either love them or you hate them, but considering you're here, I'm going to assume you love them as much as I do and that you want to learn how to play them. Well, you're in the right place because in this video, I'm going to explain all of the basics of how Legion works, their abilities, playstyles, counters, best maps, perks, and even things like lunge distance and movement speed, so let's get into how to play Legion. Legion is a DLC killer. This means in order to play Legion, you must first purchase them. They are part of the DLC called Darkness Among Us. With this pack, you will receive two characters, Jeff Johansson and Legion. Or you can purchase 500 orc cells from the store and purchase Legion that way. There is, however, a free-to-play way to obtain this character via 9,000 iridescent shards. Whichever way you obtain Legion, they will still be the same to play, so let's get into Legion's perks to start off with. Legion is the same as every killer in Dead by Daylight. It comes with 3 perks that can be taught to every other killer in the game. Once prestiged, a killer's perks will be available at tier 1 for every other killer to use. Each prestige correlates to a tier of the perk, so prestige 1 is tier 1 perks, and prestige 3 is tier 3 perks. Legion's 3 perks are actually pretty strong for different killers and builds, so you can use them basically anywhere. Legion comes with 3 perks, as we have already mentioned. Those 3 perks are Discordance, Iron Maiden, and Mad Grit. Let's go into Discordance first. Discordance is an amazing perk for most, if not all, killers. Discordance will show any generator within a 64, 96, or 128 meter range of the killer that is being repaired by 2 or more survivors at the same time. Discordance will indicate that a generator is being worked on by 2 or more survivors by having a yellow aura, as opposed to its usual red aura. This yellow aura will remain on the generator for 4 seconds after the survivors leave the generator. Discordance is a great perk for keeping pressure on generators and making sure the survivors have a hard time completing the objective. Iron Maiden is another great perk for many killers. When you are using Iron Maiden, you can search lockers at a 30%, 40%, and 50% speed increase. And on top of that speed increase, any survivor that exits a locker will scream, revealing themselves to the killer for 4 whole seconds. And they will also be affected by exposed for 30 seconds. This means for the next 30 seconds, if the killer hits them, they will instantly go down into the dying state and be able to be picked up, then hooked. This perk works really well on most killers, but especially killers that use lockers to refill ammo, such as Huntress or Trickster. Mad Grit is a perk that helps the killer be aggressive whilst carrying survivors to the hook. This perk allows the killer to melee with no cooldown for a missed hit, and for a successful hit you will pause the survivor's wiggle progression by 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and 4 seconds for each successful hit. This is amazing if you're the type of person to take your time to get to hooks, and also love hitting survivors that try to body block the hook to slow you down. Legion's base stats are pretty average, but important to know if you are either playing against or as a Legion. Legion's movement speed is 4.6 meters per second. The terror radius is 32 meters, and the difficulty to play is classified as easy in the game, so pick that as you will. So now that all of Legion's teachable perks and base stats are out of the way, let's get into Legion's ability, Feral Frenzy. Feral Frenzy gives Legion the ability to vault windows and pallets at extremely fast speed, similar to Survivors, and whilst active you also gain movement speed buff of 5.2 meters per second. With each hit on a survivor adding an additional 0.2 meters per second. This does cap at 6 meters however, so keep this in mind. When you hit a survivor with Feral Frenzy, you will receive an effect called Killer Instinct. This effect will allow you to see survivors that are moving. This can, however, show you survivors inside of lockers and even ignore perks that would usually hide a survivor's aura. The Feral Frenzy ability has a 10-second duration with a 3-second cooldown and the recharge time of 20 seconds. You can, however, cancel the ability at any time by either just pressing your ability button, missing a hit, or simply hitting a survivor you have already hit with that ability. Feral Frenzy also has a direct effect on the survivors by inflicting the effect Deep Wound, which the survivors will have to mend from, or else they will simply be knocked down and have to be picked up. They only have a certain amount of time to mend from Deep Wound, however if they are in a sprint then Deep Wound will not count down. Legion's weakness is survivor teams that understand that they need to spread out, not heal excessively and or slowly, as this is exactly what Legion wants them to do. Big maps in general will kind of counter Legion by themselves. Legion is a mid-tier killer, so it can be beaten by a good team. However, many teams do not know how to counter Legion, and you can and will get many 4-kill games just by playing Legion because people don't know what to do against them. As Legion, your primary goal is to inflict the Deep Wound status effect onto as many survivors as you can at all times. This doesn't mean to ignore generators or getting hooks, but you need to know that the longer the survivors are affected by the Deep Wound status effect, is the more time the survivors are healing and mending, which means less time doing generators. Legion is one of the few killers that you can simply never kick a generator and still win games, even into the higher ranks and MMR. This doesn't mean to not kick them. If you want to or feel like you need to, then kick them. It can never hurt. Typically at the start of the game you want to inflict a deep wound onto as many survivors as you can get your hands onto, and when your Feral Frenzy runs out, you can try to look for a down possibly and get a hook or two if you're lucky. Legion will greatly benefit from playing on small maps and or against survivors that stay grouped up. If you see survivors in groups or on small maps, take advantage of it. Grouped up survivors in small maps means your feral frenzy will likely get a lot of value per use, which is always good. I have already mentioned that Legion thrives on small maps, and these are some of the best maps for Legion as of recording this video. Coal Tower, Rancid Abattoir, The Game, Dead Dog Saloon, Larry's, and Wrecker's Yard. Legion thrives on all of these maps as they are all extremely small and Legion can get around them very quickly to use their feral frenzy to the best of their ability. The lunge attack in DBD is extremely underrated by new and even intermediate players. The lunge is performed by simply holding down your attack button instead of just pressing it. The lunge is calculated by taking your speed, then multiplying it by 1.5 times, which on average is around a 6-meter lunge range. So Legion speed being 4.6 meters per second multiplied by 1.5, that's a 6.9 meter lunge range. This can be used very easily to lunge around corners and catch survivors off guard, and even be used to hit survivors vaulting a window with the correct timing. It all just takes practice to get used to, but once you do, you will see the full power of lunge attacks. If your frenzy is about to end and you are chasing a survivor that you have already hit with your frenzy, you may as well lunge attack to them to end your frenzy, as this will lower the distance between you and the survivor while your frenzy is on cooldown. This can also be done at any point during your frenzy to end it if you don't want to use its entire duration. I personally would rank Legion at C+ tier, and with that being said, that should be all for the video on Legion. I know there are other videos on Legion out there, and I will link some of those in the description for you to look at as well, but don't forget to subscribe and thanks for watching. Bye!